and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to yet another edition of Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition, we're going to be dealing with some current issues, trending national issues happening in our country, Liberia. First, we're going to be looking at the incident at the Christ Chapel, Fifth Chapel of Evangelist Prince Yomi Johnson. That's we call it PYJ Church. So there was an incident there where a group of Liberians claiming to be members of the NPP went to protest on the premises of the church. We're going to talk about that. Also, Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings is poised, as people say, to pick Charlene Bromskin, Councillor Charlene Bromskin, as his running mate. But this is not public yet, so Mr. Cummings is still in the VP search. If it's Charlene, will Charlene make a good running mate for Mr. Cummings? We're going to look at that. Also, what is the Joseph Newman Boakai or United Party campaign strategy? We've heard that his vice running mate and also the rescue mother is calling on him to go to Foya and relax and don't bother about the campaign. What does that mean? Also, we're going to conclude with the $100 million drug smuggling case has ended with all of the suspects being acquitted. With me to discuss all these trending national issues, I have Mr. Kalebo Gonglo of the Marv Juniors Project. Mr. Gonglo, welcome to the show.
My pleasure, Dennis.
We also have Dr. Abdoulaye Dukle, who is joining us from the nation's capital. Duke, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. How are you doing?
Great. On the way, our governance consultant will be joining us shortly. That's Mr. Ahmed Salif. He's going to be here anytime. But we want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is time for you to share the show. Invite someone, because all the time when issues are happening, people call us and say, what is Tough Talking Thursday saying about these things that are happening? So always bring the group together to discuss. Well, the incident at the church of Prince Y. Johnson happened on Sunday, where a group of men, boys, went on the campus of the church, calling Prince Johnson as a murderer, and calling for war crime court. That disturbed the church. The service was disrupted, and since then there has been condemnation from many corners, calling on the government to look into this case and prosecute the perpetrators. Dr. Duke, what do you make of this scenario at Prince Johnson's church? Is it free speech from the side of these people? Is it were they justified because Prince Johnson is talking politics on the pulpit, or this is part of trespassing, which is a crime?
Well, yes. I think you can look at it from both sides. You could say, okay, is it if this is something that used to happen, that people will go to other people's political events and heckle, and then you say, okay, it's free speech. But when it's supposed to be a religious service, although Prince Johnson announced that he was going to respond to the VP, then I think there's some sort of provocation, because all it takes, sometimes, these things you don't react. There's no normal reaction to it. You could say, okay, let's go get them. Just the same way they were dancing outside, somebody from Prince Johnson's side could have come outside and be dancing in their faces. It takes one rock thrown somewhere by somebody, and then the fighting starts, and then everything gets out of control. And then we start talking about the peace process and then all of that. So I think it was a very reckless, I would say reckless provocation, really. I mean, it's not, I don't think it has anything to do with free speech. I don't think NPP didn't just discover Prince Johnson today to tell him that he's a war criminal. So these are all come from the background of what happened in the last few weeks. But it goes back to, as you say, to the fear of Prince Johnson from certain political parties. I think once Prince Johnson left the coalition with the CDC, it had created some sort of panic. We saw Koji going to Nimba and accuse him of being a war criminal or something. And then the president himself talked about it in church. And then Jewel Howard Taylor now talking about it. So they all have, there's a sense of panic. Some kind, that some things are breaking down. And some people see the end of this line. And therefore, I think, yes, it was a political provocation. I think it was reckless. And I think government should look into it. And the foreign minister did ask that, the Minister of Justice did ask that the people be arrested. But so far, nobody has been arrested. No one has been arrested. Nobody has been called for questioning. So that again, I think it's, you can put this in a category of electoral violence. Because provocation to violence is also violence. And that's why it's very dangerous.
Mr. Gonglo, electoral violence, you follow a lot of election stuff and you yourself participated. Would this be tantamount to electoral violence and clearly a provocation? What do you think?
Well, I would say this before I talk on that. Let me just say a little bit about what Dr. Du said earlier. Let us also be aware that Senator Johnson is an elected senator of the Republic of Liberia. He's been paid by taxpayers. So there is, in his clergy role, also put him in a public eye because he get offering people from different political associations go to the church. So I'm looking at the situation with Donald Trump and our ex-basketball star Allen Iverson. Donald Trump, Mar-a-Lago, there were demonstrators there. When those who disagree with him, that's his private property. They would line up there in the morning and chant anti-Trump slogan. They were not harming him. That's a private property. They'll go around.
You mean on his property?
On his property, around not probably, but around the property. So when you are public figure,
let's get this straight. Is it on the property or outside the property?
I think they're always on the road. You can always see them standing on the road. And those who we see usually are Trump supporters. Sorry.
Yeah, but I think Dennis, the point I'm trying to make is when you are public official, the question of privacy or trespassing become very thin because your actions, the way public activists view your action and the way they react to your action, it's something that except you take legal action, the court has to define that. Whether that was trespassing or not, it's left with Senator Johnson to take a legal action on that. But I think he's a public official and his utterances, his actions are open to public reactions. In as much as I will condemn anything that border along free, or trying to limit free speech or freedom of religion or practice of religion, as the person wishes, I will condemn that because these are constitutionally guaranteed rights. I will fight and err on the side of the Constitution that those rights must be guaranteed at all times, right? Yeah. I will condemn those acts, but I will not go as far as maybe going the way other people have analyzed it. I just think that those who gather there also are interested parties in public issues, and they wanted to express our expression. They're feeling about a public official, and that is important. A public official, okay. So, but in terms of electoral violence is not just sometimes you'll be spontaneous, but it slowly developed. Just as cheating in election does not only occur on the day of voting, it starts slowly. Sometimes the election get rigged even before the first ballot is put in the ballot box. So violence in itself comes in different forms. Sometimes it slowly develops and snowball into a full-scale electoral violence. But I wouldn't go that far yet to say this is electoral violence, because if you take
Mr. Gonglo, let's get a few things clear, right? I'm not a lawyer, but I researched this before coming here, that there is something called criminal trespass. If you get on somebody else's property without being authorized. So if they enter the premises of the church, let's say the church is on 2 lots. If they enter that place without being authorized, their free speech or their freedom to assemble does not extend there. Do you agree?
Yes, I would agree with a caveat. Whether that church is a private church of an individual or it's a church that was built by firms or congregants.
No, don't even go there.
I don't know.
A church, right?
I don't know this.
It's a church.
It's a church. The government doesn't build churches around here, but the church get together and build their own church.
Those who gathered there were not government officials, though. No,
what I mean is it's a church, and church means private citizens get together and say we're going to worship and build their church. So it's a private land.
Those who were there, whether were also members of the church.
No. Whether they were members or not, they were not authorized according to Prince Johnson. So they were trespassing.
On those assumptions, I will agree that's trespassing.
Right.
On those assumptions. Because I don't know the facts. Until the police make an arrest and the CID conduct investigation and come with the facts and say these are the facts of what happened.
Mr. Gonglo, if somebody comes in your yard, do you need the police to tell you that you didn't authorize them to be there?
Then as under the law, I will be certain that my statement, the video footage are facts, right? But it still requires the police or the CID to establish their own of the law to say this is what happened.
Let me add this part. When I said provocation and then also electoral violence, in the aftermath, Prince Johnson held a press conference. He said, next week, I'm going to bring 500 men to protect this church. So Prince Johnson brings 500 men on Sunday. These guys bring 500 men. What do we think is going to happen? That's why we talk about provocation. When you say it doesn't happen one day, it snowballs and then become big. That's how it starts. You start 5 people, 2 people, 3 people, and then everybody get involved.
No, I think we are in agreement on that.
Yeah, okay, then it is electoral violence because the person who provoked the violence is creating provocation is electoral violence.
Okay,
we want to be technical about it, but somebody comes to your house and call you war criminal in your church, and we don't call that provocation, and they're saying war crime while you're preaching in your own church. How we want to define that?
Yeah, what I would say, my opinion is, my advice to the both parties, and particularly to Senator Johnson, because he has made a habit to use his pulpit to respond to or launch attack on his opponents.
Right.
So, can I learn, please?
Yes, sure.
He has used his church to launch attack on his opponent or to respond to his opponent. He is an elected senator. The biggest political platform in Liberia is a Capitol building. He has access to that. He can stay in the chamber where he's protected under the Constitution and say anything he wants to say, like Yaka Koluba does all of the time. So even those who went to protest, I would advise that take your protest to the Capitol building because that's a protected ground. Okay? Don't go to his church. Senator Johnson, don't respond to your opponent in your church. Go to the Capitol building where you have your platform, where you are protected.
Well, again, it is very historical for pastors to use their pulpit, including Dr. Martin Luther King, to preach what we call, you and I may call politics, right? So I don't think we can restrict Prince Johnson what his sermon should be.
No. Dennis, I think we need to be clear here. when Martin Luther King spoke, he was not calling just in. You are calling system. You are fighting for systemic change.
I mean, but
so look at back on the Archbishop Michael Francis was talking government. He was not personalizing it. When Senator Johnson go to the church, he takes individual need to attack them. Okay, he's not. Look, I'm okay. The government is doing so many horrible stuff, right? I'm okay for Senator Johnson to talk about the government, but when you start individualizing it, personalizing it, then it sometimes becomes a little bit, is he fighting the system or is he fighting individual?
Right. I mean, you could say that the spirit led him, so that's a different argument.
Yeah, I know.
But
in fact, that's what the people are saying. That
the people, pastors can prove anything in the Bible and say, well,
the Bible is so broad. I mean,
right.
but anything in the Bible.
But let us also look at the other side. So I think you agree that this was a criminal trespassing because they enter his property. If they were outside on public land, right. Another side to look at is the way the responses, the way people have responded. Is it fair? Is it political? Calling, because there are others like Dr. Duke call it violence. There were others who implied that those guys were very violent. So what you make of the responses, the one from the Unity Party and the one from the Council of Churches?
I disagree. They were not violent. I watched a video footage. The utterance, they were chanting yes, but I didn't see them throwing stone. In fact, when some attempted to even go near Prince Johnson's car, there was a guy controlling it. Look, stay away. They were not. Clearly, they were not. Because if they attempted to be violent, look at Prince Johnson Church. On any given day, Prince Johnson Church got most of his bodyguards there on any given day. So it will have led to something.
Prince Johnson also said,
church. Prince Johnson Church is not just an ordinary church. This is a militaristic church.
No.
You got a lot of folks there.
The people we see there, they are all worshippers.
Well,
okay. Prince Johnson also said that he is going to bring 500 men, mainly ex-combatants. Today we are focused on a interview of one Captain Jerry Colley, who said he himself as an ex-combatant, he was never disarmed. And there are many people in his shoes who were never disarmed. And so he is kind of signing the whistle that this is very dangerous because Prince Johnson and he said they are still loyal to Prince Johnson. This kind of scary, Dr. Duke.
No, but I think Gonglo trying to, play this downplay and say, okay, legalities, and maybe I think the real story is violence. These are people who, I saw the video. Actually, I saw when it was happening. And the way they were talking, anybody could have reacted differently. Somebody, I remember you told the guy was walking to his car. That's how close they were to him. Knowing Prince Johnson, somebody stopped, if somebody else instead of his own group had tried to stop him, and he would have pushed that person because he was going to the car. That's where things start. It doesn't start with a mob with 500, 1,000 people getting into a fight. It starts with one person pushing one person, and then rocks, and then bullet, and then you have something that you don't have a control over. I think we should talk to politicians. They should talk to each other and stop this kind of thing before the campaign starts. This is Monrovia. It was done on camera. Imagine being somewhere in the bush in Zwedu or wherever, some bush, and then you are an opposition person trying to talk, and somebody say, okay, you're not going to speak today because you're a war criminal, or you are a rogue, or you are this and that. I don't think we should minimize and say, oh, it's technicality, technical terms, and Prince Johnson is a politician. Yes, he's a politician, but he's in his church on a Sunday.
Here's my question for you.
Yeah.
What if those guys stood outside his church grounds? Will it be a political gathering? Will it be fair? If they stood
but that's where I started from.
To call on him as a war criminal, war chronicles, and say all kinds of things, will that be guaranteed under our laws?
Yeah. If they're standing outside, they're not touching him, they're not threatening him, because that's a threat of violence. When you start shaking your finger in somebody's face and start walking to their car, isn't that what police shoot people? They say he's tried to come to me and I had to shoot. That's when the problem started. If they were outside the compound on the other side of the road yelling at Prince Johnson, I don't think Prince Johnson would have stopped the sermon. I think he would have gone with his service, and I don't think there would have been any possibility of confrontation. But this was really getting close to a confrontation, and that's what we have to look at. Not the thing for the Prince Johnson, what he talks about, what he doesn't talk about. He's been talking about it for 6 years. Why nobody went there to go call him a war criminal, especially from the NPP? It's a political issue, and then we should put it where it is and find a solution to it before it get out of hand.
Today, Chairman Bani of the NPP issued a statement from the NPP saying those who went on the grounds of Prince Johnson's church are members of the faction of the Joel Howard Taylor faction of the NPP. Mr. Gonglo? A lot of these parties now have been factionized.
All the parties are factionalized.
No. I mean, I think it's just the politics historically in Liberia, where the ruling party or the government of the day, even under L.M. Johnson's Salif, there were attempts to even to split CDC. When you saw the likes of Eugene Nangbe and others leaving the CDC and even joining the UP, Jake Kabakoli, who is a Boakai today, he was once a sedition. They are, so the government has the large powers. So in developing countries, they use this and to split powerful forces. So I'm not surprised that even the MPP is working on two different legs today. I'm not surprised, because just reflect on the history of Liberia. This is how it has been. So is it good? No, I don't think government should do that. I think we should allow the democratic space. We should use that as a place of marketing ideas, so voters can buy which ideas stand out to them, which ideas they believe serve their best interest. But when government start to interfere, use different means to split political parties to make them weak, I think it's a sign of weakness, But it's happening, and not just with this government. It has happened with Salif. It has happened with Charles Taylor. It has happened with Top. I mean, though it has happened with government before. So, I mean, it's just very sad, but that's a tradition in Liberia.
Dr. Drew, is Prince Johnson scared, especially after breaking up with the ruling party?
I don't know. I don't want to put Prince Johnson and scare in the same sentence. Yeah, and scare in the same sentence. He may retreat for convenience or strategic reason. I don't see him. In 1990, as we were all running away from the war, there were three powerful men in Liberia, three big men with guns: Samuel Doe, Charles Taylor, and Prince Johnson. Those are the three that, if you remember August 1990. Yeah. Yes, there were three.
This is over 30 years later. He's an old man now. So
he's an old man, but he's the only survivor. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So scared, I don't think he's scared. I don't see why he would be scared. I think if there was a way to scare him, I think he would have just stayed in the CDC. He decided, and I think he decided to leave, and I don't see why he would be scared now. There's nothing to be scared of.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. We're talking about the incident at PYJ's church and the different reactions. Yeah.
Can I just make a quick comment?
Yeah, let's.
I think Prince Johnson is scared because for fact he can prove me wrong. Prince Johnson walk with body armor on his shirt every single day. That's why he wear that big coat suit and big. You never see him wear he works with body armor every day because he's very scared that somebody is going to shoot him. Okay, I don't believe anybody is going to shoot him, but because of what he's gone through his history, he always believed that there's some enemy out there to get him. Okay, so and for me, the way I see it, he predicted in one of the videos I watched that 2023 will be violent. So thing will happen. Prince Johnson predicted that. In one video that I watched, he made a
He
statement.
said the election will be rigged and that
Yeah,
will cause violence.
yeah, violence, and all that. So even some of the things that Prince Johnson talking about today are things that he predicted. Even in 2017, when you were running against, a race as a competitor to President Weah, things that he predicted. And when he got his money, he decided to side with him. Probably his stomach could be running today that, oh, there's all the money I got. I got money from Sally before I built all the stuff, but all the money I got a little rum my stomach. I think he should be sitting down now, probably reflecting.
Let's see. Prince Johnson is known by many things, but being scared, Dr. Duke said he can't even mention that in the same sentence with the name Prince Johnson. And I'll agree with him. But time will tell. Next, we see that there are still presidential candidates who are yet to pick their running mate, including Councillor Gonglo. Also, Mr. Alexander Benedict Cummings has not picked his running mate, and he's still in that search. We are getting clues that he's likely to pick Councillor Charlene Brown. Mr. Gonglo, is that rumor still likely to happen? And what do you make of that selection?
On second thought, I believe last week on the show here, I made a comment that all us thought maybe I was invoking sessionalism or what have you. But I've had time to reflect. I've had time to listen to different video footage of Charlene Bronsky. I've had time to watch or read a little bit about how Joseph Kabila or Junior replaced his father. I've had time to even look at traditional leaders in Nimba, why in certain districts their children became commissioner or parliament chief to replace them. So I think there is something with need recognition and chieftaincy or leadership that sometimes it takes time for that influence to go away. I think it's not even 10 years yet since Councillor Bronsky died. So I think by and large, Basel is still in a mourning or mood for Councillor Bronsky. And listening to Charlene, I think on second thought, I think she brings a lot on the table. I mean, she talks just like her father. If Basel people were actually like was proving different voting record in love with her father, when they listen to her in a bigger forum, they will really feel like Bronsky is reliving. They will be like they are reliving their life again with Bronsky. Okay, so I'm convinced that if Charlene is picked, I think that will shake the strategy for different contenders in Basel.
And I mean, I was watching one of those videos and the way the father was being portrayed. I was watching with somebody else who had different feeling about that. It's like, why can't they let this man rest in peace? It's like you are using his name for political or gains. It's like you are exploiting his memory. That okay, I'm going to use this now so to get to political prominence, or people are telling you, hey, that's the feeling the person said. It's like an opposite of the same thing you are expressing, Mr. Gonglo.
It depends, because it depends. I've seen a video of Bronsky out calling Joseph Boakai a tribalist, calling Joseph Boakai names, right? So some opponent to Joseph Boakai could use that video. I would say, why not let the man rest in peace? But if someone is using the positive side of Bronsky or his positive contribution to the body politics of Liberia, and using that narrative to say his children will still have influence in Basel, where he came from where he proudly spoke about beating Domo in the executive mansion and all of you. I think it's something not to ignore. But I won't go with using negative expression or expression that he used on his opponent that was not maybe too friendly. That was a moment, and the thought that went into it is no need to use that now in 2023, when he's not alive.
Dr. Dukley, what do you make of the Cummings picking Charlene, especially after a failed attempt to get Yombly?
Well, after he failed to get Yombly, remember, one time I said Yombly could be his running mate, long time ago before.
Yeah.
I think the going to Councillor Bromskin is a big leap of faith. Big leap of faith because you have to sell your candidate. You have to sell your co-runner. That's the first struggle he has. And people, when you talk about Cummings, people always talk about his lack of connectivity with the people. That is, up there, and then people are out here. So all of that. So therefore, when you take somebody like Councillor Bromskin, she's brilliant. She's her father, and she's everything. But you say, okay, political, how do you sell her? How do you take her, that young woman, to Cape Mount or to Bond County to talk to the old people and say, okay, I've taken this woman to be my running mate. Her qualification is that in political arena is that she's the daughter of Bromskin. Legally, she's qualified. Legally, professionally, she's a great woman. But her political qualification is limited to she's the daughter of her father. You knew her father, so therefore you have to trust her. So is that sellable in a national campaign? Is it a little bit too late? Shouldn't she be? Maybe I think she should have been probably named 6-7 months ago, where people have the time to know her outside of the campaign, throughout the campaign, and all of that. But it is what it is. So therefore, I would say yes, it's a challenge. It's a leap of faith. And then when you take a leap of faith, and in politics, sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But then you give two tickets. You get a ticket with Cummings and Bromskin. So you have two people who have no government experience. Everybody says that, no government experience. Both of them is plus. It could be a plus if you think about, Liberian government is corrupt, but not everybody in Liberian government is corrupt. The leadership of the government is corrupt. That's from the past and now. It's always the leadership. I think there are thousands of people who do their job, who teach in classroom and go to work every single day. Even if they don't get paid, they still go to work. So it's not government being corrupt, the leadership is corrupt. So how you deal with that as a political novice entering the political arena, and then your second in arm is also a novice. So there are questions, but they're not insurmountable.
Right.
Technical, those are the questions that I'll ask as a campaign person. I'll say, what does she bring beside her name? How do we introduce her to the people? And how do we function with her as a government, given her experience, a limited experience, including and with the limited experience of Cummings himself in government?
Right. Cummings has repeatedly said, if having government experience means stealing from our people, I don't want one. In other words, he has consistently played down government experience as if working in government is working in leadership. Because I know my father worked in government as a treasurer for the township. He was a treasurer. He made, I think, 150. The 50 cents was for taxes. His nephew, who went to get the money from Greenville, took 50 cents. So by the time the 50 cents get to him, out of the $1.50, there is nothing left. So there are honest people in government who work. They're not all leaders, But more to that, both of them, and we talk about the connection, they are very similar when it comes to their background. Both of them did their college education in America. They have worked here extensively and don't have government experience back home. they also, I don't know if any one of them is able to speak any Liberian language, which may or may not be useful, right, in the campaign. But would that be a problem?
I don't,
Or, like nobody's bringing that outside experience to the ticket.
Okay, I don't think, a campaign is always about how you run it. And it's always the last 3-4 months of the leading to elections. I'll go back to our candidate, our candidate Ellen, when we ran her 2005, 2011. You can say all you want, but she was able to break those barriers that people consider ethnicity, gender, religion. And we actually made the fact that she didn't belong to any tribe a plus. That, she would not be part of the, infighting between tribes, and she's this and that. So she broke all those lines. If you remember, people who were following the campaign at the time, it was Bromskin. People were looking at Bromskin. The Washington Post did a beautiful insert on him saying the man who will be president. And that was a guy that we sent for Ellen, but once he met Bromskin and the hula in town, he followed Bromskin. So Bromskin won, and then Vanny Sherman, who had the total support of the government, all the money in the business community was behind him. But Ellen was able to break into all those barriers, gender, religion, and everything to get elected. So it is how you campaign. It's not
right. But Ellen was very well known.
She had a history. Of course, she had a history. She was part of the body politics.
Everybody running, she was the most recognizable.
Yeah, you can say that.
Right.
Yeah, she was the only one standing out. But those people were on the ground. If you remember how, when not Vanny, but when Bromskin returned to Monrovia, it was under Taylor. People say Taylor paid people to welcome him to show that democracy is at work. But it was crowded. The whole city was black, dark. That to welcome Bromskin, that gave him, the idea that, hey, maybe I can get this thing.
All right. Let me welcome our governance consultant, Mr. Atme K. Salif. Mr. Salif, welcome, and thanks for coming. I know you were caught up in a meeting, in those company meetings, because you are at the head of the table, so everywhere is represented. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Good evening.
We are discussing the Cummings Bromskin ticket. What are you reading? You advise people on these things. The symbolism, the messaging, what it portends, and everything in between. What do you make of this ticket, if it is possible? And then we are not 100%, but it is more likely that he's going to pick Councilor Bromskin.
Yeah, I thought we talked about this issue last week.
Yeah, what could be their message?
I told you they have a lot of messages, and this doesn't necessarily speak to whether Mr. Cummings will become president or now will win the election, or what is his standing, with the Liberian people in the polls, or strategy in terms of where things are. But if you look on the merit of it, I think he's sending a lot of messages here. And last week I talked about how Councilor Bromskin, she is a brilliant young lawyer, female, very well educated, American educated woman. That means something in our politics. She's somebody in her 40s, as I understand, based on what I've read about her. It means that she appeals to youth. She appeals to middle-class professionals. She appeals to all kinds of demographics. She has name recognition by virtue of her late father's politics and reputation in the country. Of course, detractors will say she was this bassa. The Liberty Party has always struggled in terms of them not being able to really attract a large national following. Is somehow branded as a regional party, or even just a grand bassa party, if you like. However, I think that this presumptive running mate to Mr. Cummings, it looks like it's all but certain that she will become. You know, she brings a lot to the table beyond what we talked about, what I think Mr. Gunglo was suggesting last week, and we had that little disagreement there. I think again,
Mr. He had a come to Jesus movement, so he's
oh,
on
so
board.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear, because you know, I mean, frankly, she
But
brings up.
Mr. Salif, with the Yombly Kanga factor with JNB and Yombly being the boss there, now Challenge become the boss you, so it's getting complicated. Where you think Bassa will go? Yombly or Challenge?
Look, the Bassa belt and the Bassa vote is beyond Grand Bassa County, right?
Let's start with Grand Bassa.
Okay. Last time I checked, when Charlie Bromsky went to Grand Bassa, I believe that she had some kind of event. I don't know. That's when I don't know if she's even declared that, you know, her intention to run for a particular district in Grand Bassa, but she pulled large crowds. And I recently too, they had a meeting in Grand Bassa. I watched a video where she addressed the people. She's a very rhetorical, strategic, and eloquent speaker. I mean, she's an orator. You can give it to her. Her legal training, you can tell she trained well. She makes the argument, she makes the case, she brings it to the level of the people. She was speaking very close to Liberian English, right? So because that means to me, when I listen to someone doing that, it tells me a lot of things, that this person is self-aware. They're aware of their audience. They know where they are. They communicate. The goal here is to communicate. It's not to show off your education and experience and so forth. So of course, the Bassa, with all that said, the Bassa vote is very competitive. You have Senator Kanga Lawrence, and all these individuals come from prominent Bassa families in Grand Bassa County. The Kanga family, the Bromskin family, and then you have the Bezogan Finley factor. You know, this is former senator of the county, former minister of foreign affairs. So like I said, we'll see which way Finley goes. But the Bassa vote is competitive. That, if you look at it strategically, however, and if the Cummings teams is doing its homework, because look, because at the end of the day, it comes down to get out the vote. Who's doing the groundwork? Whose groundwork is stronger? You may think perceptively that, oh, they're competing over the votes at three major sides, they're pulling the votes here and there. But if you really go on the ground, you do your district analysis, you try to understand the issues that matter to people in Bassa, and what the demographic split there, who's voting, what are young people voting for, what's their interest. You appeal to them. You do some really systematic work on the ground, register people, collect information, build network and relationship. You could swing the votes your way. So this is really up for grabs. I have to say, it's not automatic just because we see Senator Lawrence supporting JNB, and similarly for Senator Lawrence, Kanga Lawrence too. They could the Unity Party could do similarly. You could do the groundwork. They really appeal to people. They already have this kind of public perception that the vote is going their way in a lot of respect in most parts of the country. But if you sit and do nothing, that doesn't bode well for you. People who win elections are those who fight electorally.
Thank you. And my last question goes to you on this issue of Mr. Gonglo. One of the proponent or the progenitor of the we are one round theory, this was his calculation, that Nimba County no longer belongs to Prince Johnson, or Prince Johnson is now running to be president, so Nimba is up for grabs. Grand Bassa, that has been exclusively Bromskin's territory, Councillor Bromskin is no longer there, so we can get some votes in there. So now with this Yombly versus Charlene in Grand Bassa, Yombly being the more recognizable than Charlene when it comes to her being the senator in the place there. Where you think Bassa is going to go, or is this going to advantage President Weah?
Well, I think like what Anna said, it depends on the messaging, what the pitching different campaign teams will start to make in different local areas. That will be critical. Taking into consideration that Weah mother was a Bassa woman, okay? So he has a Bassa connection. And for that matter, he's done a little bit of work in Riverside, as I understand. So he has a Bassa connection, and you should not rule that out. And I will say that I think it will boil down to campaign messaging and also the ground game. The ground game depending on who has the money to put more agents out there in the field to get out the vote and what have you. And let us not forget the fact that this is a reckless incumbent government that could actually open the gate of the central bank and just to maintain power. In a mass poverty country like Liberia, it's anyone guess. The verdict is out there in the air. I mean, it can happen because I tell you this on this question. I was just talking to a friend who just returned from Lofa. And this friend was a facilitator for teacher training in 5 different locations in Lofa, like in-service teachers, training. And they train about more than 400 teachers, in different school districts. And he said he was shocked when he listened to these teachers. He pretended to be a UP partisan. And he said he was shocked that not a single teacher from Lofa in that group supported Boakai. That they thought for 42 years in public service, Lofa has not benefited, he should just go and retire. He said he was shocked the only person he found in Lofa in that teacher training group that supported Boakai came from Nimba. So,
but Mr. Gonglo, where can you be and you're hearing all this Boakai gossip?
Exactly.
Here's a way to get it story.
The local vote is more complicated than we often
no. So I mean, so it's important. So I'm not just put that out there that it will boil down, because the point I'm making is no vote is cast in stone here to say somebody has Prince Johnson has voting bag that he just take from political camp to political camp.
He has consistently demonstrated that. Mr.
No. Dennis on the show, I've explained it many times. Now I'm tempted to also do that tonight, because you know what? In 2005, people forget this history. Prince Johnson Salah, he endorsed Georgia. People forget this, and he lost in the second round after he got elected. In 2011,
his own campaign.
2011, technically there was no second round. Legally, there was a second round. In 2017, yes, we can debate it. But what was the mood of the country in 2017? People did not want UP 10. In fact, I was supporting UP at the time. There was this talk that we don't want TWP, True Party yet. They're not True Party time. I mean, people talk about that. Okay? Right. So let us not forget this. So I think the real test is this year. Whether he really got the vote in basket that he just take from political camp to political camp. I think this is a real test.
Thank you. I mean, I only said that because
And I'll add that in 2017, he put 9 candidates on his ticket. Only one won at the Supreme Court, not at the ballot box.
Okay. Yeah. I only said that because Laser say Laser can eat rest, but wherever you see rest kitchen, you find Laser.
Well, but that theory also applies to those who say they are not corrupt, but their running mate are always alleged to be corrupt.
I know, because all right. Thank you. If let's move to the next one, right? The JNB, or the Rescue 1, Rescue 2 political strategy. Again, Mr. Gonglo was there and he heard the speech that his vice presidential running mate and also the rescue mother telling JNB to relax. So don't even worry. You can go to Foya and just sleep, and the campaign will be yours. Mr. Gonglo, you heard that too.
Yeah, I did.
And what do you make of that?
Well, for me, because last week I said on the show that Liberia, or most African countries, I should say, we are such that our leaders are not transparent with the public. Like Buhari never told the Nigerian what was really happening to him, he will go to Saudi Arabia for months, or you will go to the other hospital. Today in Liberia, so much rumor abounds as to what is the status, the health status of some of the candidates. Okay, now then, coming from one of the, I would say, at this moment, the leading opposition leader, they say, oh, well, you don't need to campaign. Go find somewhere in Lofa and just rest. I'm the rescue mother. I will campaign for you. In the mix of so many unconfirmed rumors. Okay, so I was asking myself, are they trying to sell pig in the bed to Liberian voters? For me, it's a big question, and it's interesting because 2023, our democracy is evolving, is maturing. We should be able to grill our candidates. In 2017, they avoided debate largely. Joshua did not take part in debate, and even the one they tried to hire was not properly organized. So in 2023, there should be an improvement over what happened in 2017, right? So now, if one candidate says somebody should take a vacation in FAR, that also suggests they don't even want that person to participate in debate. Okay, and for me, it's a critical issue. What is the thinking? What is the thinking of Senator Kanga on this matter when she suggests that a candidate should take a vacation and don't even bother about campaigning to go sit down in one village?
That may have been rhetorical, Mr. Gungo.
And what do you think of it? What do you think? What do you think they are trying to say here?
Well, so here is my thinking. There are so many rumors, and anyone on this panel will not disagree with me that there has been so many rumors about the health status of different candidates in the race. So if one candidate is suggesting take a vacation if I don't bother, is it based on what they know, or is it rhetorical that Ahmed may want to submit?
What do you think, Ahmed? Rhetorical, or the feel that the old man cannot make the the rigor of the campaign?
Dennis, this is political season, and during political seasons, people politically try to kill their enemies, and you do that by kicking them off message. You do that by creating an image in the heads of the voters, or creating some perception about them that's negative. Some psychological kind of operation, that's part of campaign strategy. So if there are rumors, we're not surprised. There are rumors because, listen, there's no secret. Honorable Boakai is an elderly man with age, and so people just look at just the age without knowing his health status, without knowing facts about his health, and say, "Oh, he's going to America." So you can spread rumors about somebody, because I haven't heard that. And if it's not something that was stated in the public, in the media, that somebody heard Senator Kanga Lawrence stating this, I wouldn't give it credence, because again, this is political season. People will say anything. In terms of the optics about it, though, if she actually did say that, say in a public space or in front of media people, then that was a mistake. So if you are doing opposition research, or if you are a strategist for the opposition, you could feed on that. So that would be a negative on their part, right? It means that you are propagating a perception that's already out there in the public. It could mean that you are reinforcing an imagery in people's head that is not too good about your candidate. That would have been an unfortunate statement. So that strategists then now will have to go to work to try to turn that to their advantage, to try to turn that around and do just what I'm saying. To say, look, this is just propaganda. If she's made such a statement, of course you ought to understand was rhetorical. She was just joking. I even may have. So yeah, it's about imagery. Now you see Gonglo is feeding on it, and Gonglo is promoting that for a reason, because Gonglo Kalebu here supports a particular candidate who happens to be going against JNB. And so I'll say on either side, you could use it to your advantage, and or you could deploy your strategies to try to damage control and clean up some kind of mistake, because these things happen, right? Somebody will misspeak. We all do that in communication. You misspeak. Even the candidate can misspeak. Just say Joe Biden is a gaffe machine. He says terrible things every day. The White House is going back to correct and try to walk it back. The difference is those who understand when someone misspeaks or someone makes a strategic mistake, how do you walk it back? How do you fix it and clean it up to your advantage?
But Ahmed, just to add, you might have heard that there was endorsement of JMB at the Capitol building by Stavo of the Capitol building. It was at that program that Yomli Kanga said, in this public manner, I want to tell Rescue One, go find somewhere. If I say I want to tell Honorable Joseph Boakai, go find somewhere in Lofa, in one village, and rest until after the election. That's where she made it.
But in Liberian culture, Dennis and Dr. Ducle, don't we talk like that all the time?
I think we're blowing this out of proportion.
Yeah, we are.
I think the whole thing is rhetorical. I mean, Nyomli can say, Pape, you done 42 years of government work. Go sit down. We'll get this for you. In fact, she can play that. I mean, if I were them tomorrow, I will repeat it again. Oh man, go sit down. Everybody know you. You don't need to be introduced to nobody. You don't need to go tell anybody what you did. We know you. So we're going to sell you in the country and make sure that you're president. And you don't have to do anything because we know you. Oh, we know you're not healthy, but you can run president. You can run the presidency. That much we know. So we're going to campaign. We're going to do the bush. We're going to sleep everywhere and then bring you the victory. Like in our culture, in our culture, the chief doesn't go to the people come to pay respect to the chief. Why not? I think we're blowing things out of proportion. This is like a mouse in a mountain, you know, let it go.
Yeah, although, I mean, Dr. Ducle, I agree with that, although I wouldn't say he's repeating as a communication or messaging strategy. But in our culture, like you say, even a young person, once the person is your senior, is a big brother or a boss or somebody, you say, let the woman go sit down, let the boss sit down. It means that we got you. You're so well known. You got this in the back already.
Exactly. That's my point.
You don't need to do the work. You're so recognized. You're so well. It's a fair complaint.
But do you recognize what?
Yes, Dennis. Here is why I disagree with Dr. Du on this matter. In 2005, those who did not vote or those who were born in 2005, let's assume those who were born in 2005, they are 18 years this year. Or maybe those who were 14 years in 2005. Most of them may be voting for the first time. They need to know the story. They may even constitute a significant portion of the voting bloc. What you're saying here is, you are saying they will start picking a bear to those type of voters. Okay? So let us not forget the fact that in Liberia, we are still trying to strengthen our democratic process and democratic processes. And these processes involve rigorous debate with candidates, outreach, small group, focus group discussion, and debating. Even on FOL, we would like to have Ambassador Boakai come here, just like other candidates have passed through here, to be interviewed by our chief host, Dennis Jar, to ask some of the tough questions. You know, but you are saying that candidate should just go sit down somewhere in Lofa. I think I disagree with Dr.
No, I'm not saying he's good. I'm talking about the message. I'm talking about the message. Which, it could be a flop. The message, sometimes when I listen to you, let me say one word. It's not about, what Joe Boakai would do or not. We're talking about this specific message. And to me, as a communication person, I can turn this message around and run it and make a campaign team and say, yes, the old man is sitting down. He will bring him when we need to bring him. And that's it. I can turn it around. That's what I do. You can turn this thing around and make it a very positive thing and say the whole country is campaigning for you, so therefore you don't need to campaign.
But Dr. Duke, why do you need to turn it around?
Why you need to turn around? Because people can use it. You turn it around.
The optics are bad. Is that why?
No, not bad, because it can be used negatively. Therefore,
Okay.
you turn around. Because it can be used negatively, you got to put yourself ahead and say, yes, we said it. Boakai is old. There's no secret. He had a heart transplant. Like Dick Cheney had one in 2008. He's still eating his steak. Dick Cheney had the same transplant in 2008. He's still alive.
Well, nobody's talking about heart transplant.
No. I mean, we know.
Hold on, Mr.
Gonglo, we know the issue. Boakai is old. He has a heart condition. People talk about it. It's not a secret.
I never mentioned that.
Yeah, but you don't, but that's what I'm talking about. We shouldn't try to say, oh, we're not going to mention this because we know it is there. You're talking about health. That's what we're talking about. Because if it was just an old man, 75 or 78-year-old man who can just walk, we will not have this discussion. We're having it because people say he has a health issue, so we should address it. And I'm saying somebody who had the same problem, the same heart transplant in 2008, was vice president, and he's still alive, older than Boakai. It depends on your health.
One could also argue.
Hold on, Mr. Gonglo. We got to move past this one.
Yeah, but one could also argue that we're comparing two different, radically different health services. You have one in Liberia.
No, but I get the point, right? On the optics there is very bad. That hey, you are frail and fragile, so sit down. So we can use this to tell people that hey, we already got it. On the other hand, Dr. Duke is saying this is traditional, right? When we are 5 somewhere, the youngest will be the one drawing water. The old man will sit down. So it's out of respect to say, Papa, sit down. We're going to do all the work and bring you the victory.
That's it. That's all I understood. That's what I want to understand. That's what I would say to people.
Let's talk about the last topic tonight and bring in our callers.
Yeah.
$100 million worth of cocaine entered Liberia. There were 3 that were, or 3 or 4 that were sent to court, indicted, and they'll all be acquitted. Say you don't have evidence. The justice minister is not happy about that. He's in the press, and we saw a press person from the Supreme Court came and said even the justice minister was not even in the court. I interviewed 2 lawyers here, said the way jurors are selected in Liberia may be the problem, but if there is any jury tampering, they have to pass through the justice ministry because the jurors are being guided by the justice ministry. So what's going on? What would make of this case, and where is the cocaine? Dr. Duke. Another thing that I was told was...
can you take that? I'm coming back. I'll come right back. Can you take it first?
Right. So another thing that I heard, I don't know if it's true, that the container was taken in the yard of a businessman. I think who owned Abijade supermarket. That businessman was not indicted. And so, yeah, let me start with Adman, who was...
Why should a businessman be indicted if they just brought... So Dennis, can you keep this container for us? You have a big yard, you're a big businessman in this country. You may not even know the content of the container. Some big shots, the justice minister says, can you keep it? You say, yes, gladly, right? I mean, that you're talking like you don't know our cultures.
Not the justice minister. Those who smuggle the drugs in the country.
Oh, they brought it.
They took it from the Freeport and put it in his yard.
Okay. Well, yeah, but before you indict someone, and before police even begin to investigate, there's a thing called probable cause. You have to have probable cause, like reasonable. You have to reasonably believe that this person has committed is up to some kind of thing, and you can go to court and get warrant to search them. You will find the evidence. You're almost certain that, just like you're driving in the US here, police put your license plate information in that computer, something comes up, or maybe you're speeding, some kind of, they pull you over because on the basis of probable cause. So they're not just going to willy-nilly be taking everybody to court just because somebody has brought container to your yard, or maybe you agree to. There may be other types of implication and legal exposure. If you were you entertain that kind of thing, right? That's just an aside. In terms of the whole saga with cocaine and how our justice system disposed of this case, and how Ambrose Ma, who was the spokesperson of the Supreme Court, came. You could tell it was very sad to hear and listen. You could tell that there's conflict in the whole gap between the chief prosecutor of the country, which should be the minister of justice, and the judiciary. The Ambrose representing, speaking for the judges, speaking for the court, right? It's just very sad that the government itself is not, because see, when a person commits a crime or is assumed to have committed a crime and you have evidence, you have probable cause to seek, say, go to a judge and ask for a warrant to search. You search, you discover evidence. You got all of that. That person is them and the state. It's against this. It's not a civil case. Okay. Right. And what does you and the state, you versus the state mean? It means that you've committed a crime against the state, against the people. Okay. So that means the entirety of our government should be essentially on one side, on one team, prosecuting these individuals. Right. But what we saw there was that our government was split. Somebody was defending the judicial sector, the judiciary. Somebody was defending, speaking bad about how the justice minister didn't even show up as the chief prosecutor. To me, that's not. The justice minister may or may not show up for a case. He runs the office. He has a solicitor general. He has prosecution teams of prosecutors. He has a team that's doing the job. They're doing the legwork. These are trial lawyers or criminal lawyers who go to prosecute cases. So there's a whole office that's responsible for that. When I heard that the justice minister never stepped to court one day, yeah, you show up like you're showing up, maybe to show some kind of moral support, or unless it's a specific area of expertise and you are the one with the sharpest mind on this particular area, and you want to, because it's such a huge national case that has international implications for our country, and so yeah, that's on the one hand. If you look at some of what they were talking about, the legal issues that they discuss in the media, in terms of politically and even diplomatically, this is a damaging case for Liberia. The image is sensible. I mean, our government, our president is mute on this. This is something that you can impugn the president's own character, his name, his reputation, the entire government, and Liberia. That this is a drug-infested country. This is a country where the government is in cahoots with drug dealers, essentially. I mean, if you seize a container and you have a bill of lading and you trace this container to individuals who shipped it in the country, all right. So look, some of them argued, some of the lawyers in the country were arguing that this was a terrible job. All kinds of procedural errors happened, and that's why they lost the case. Okay, but I mean, honestly, you lost that case just like that, and these guys are acquitted and they walk away, and there's no trace of the cocaine. At least it's not put in the media, in the public out there, so we know. It sends a bad message about Liberia and for Liberia.
But Mr. Salih, why you think we lost the case? The country lost the case.
Well, look, we can only speculate, right? I mean, you go to court, Dennis, if it's a society where there's respect for rule of law, there's a thing called due process. And you want anyone who goes to court who is accused, that person is presumed innocent until they're found guilty. Okay. And there are two types of due processes. There's what's called procedural due process, and there's substantive due process. So procedurally, when you're collecting evidence, you're organizing evidence, you're finding witnesses, you're building your case, the theory of your case to prove it in court. But then the substance of it, you have to make sure that these people, you don't just set them up because you've found them with cocaine and you say you're guilty, right? You really truly have to bring them before a jury and prove beyond a reasonable doubt that these people are guilty of the crime that you've accused them of. Now, if you can't prove that, even here in the U.S., the public may see the mounting evidence before them. They're like, "How come this person is being acquitted?" But well, if you didn't prove your case, and then the jury thought that you didn't prove it beyond reasonable doubt, they could acquit the person. Now, these are individuals, right? And that's why we call them jurors. The whole team of them is a jury. It's supposed to be a unit. They go in there, they're human beings, they have families and friends in the community. Sometimes you sequester them, which means they have no exposure to media. They don't know what's going on outside until the trial is done. They may not have access to their phone or social media. They don't know what people are saying in the press. But if they go home or they have their phones, of course, they're listening to what's happening in the society and so on. They debate the evidence, they argue among themselves, and then they reach to a conclusion to make sure that this person, that the prosecution proved his case. If the prosecution didn't prove his case beyond reasonable doubt, and just one juror has some kind of doubt or argument, and the others can convince them, they could return an acquittal, a non-guilty verdict. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case, because we also know our society to be very corrupt, and this is big money, and drug business anywhere in the world is big money, right? And our country is poor. Even the elites in our society are vulnerable and susceptible to money and bribery, and these kinds of seen as an opportunity to become rich, to do what? Not taking the interest of the country, the image of the country in consideration.
Mm. And Dr. Duke, it seems to me that the government, or through the Justice Ministry, is more afraid of the reputation, what the international people would say, than the actual impact of drugs being in our country. We see the Zogo crisis. I mean, drugs coming in every day.
The first time I heard about drug crisis in Liberia was 1997. I went home, and Senator Coleman, former Senator Coleman, was at the time Minister of Health. And we had a meeting, and he said 10, 15 years from now, the drug problem in this country will be uncontrollable. And of course, 2 days later, Taylor replaced him. Because he said that, and then somebody taped it and played that, people have been using drugs during the war. Now they left it alone. So, but all of that, I heard you the technical issues we raised, Sally. My take on this is a political problem. If there's one case that the government was supposed to get, is this case. Because you're being accused of everything. And this is not the first time. I mean, this $100 million, and then there were $40 million. And then 2 years ago, at the coast of Maryland, there were bags of drugs, like somebody dropped them from a plane or something, and then they took them. We never knew what happened to those drugs. The bags of them, something like 500 kilos. So you had all these suspicions on you, and then somehow you managed to get your hand on $100 million worth of cocaine, which is not an accident. Nobody would say, okay, Liberia port is manageable, let's send 100 million and try. No. This is not the first time. You can start you traffic with $100 million into a port that you don't know. So maybe it has been going on. So the government had a case. Forget about who sent it, where you brought it. You have partnership with one of the best drug deal agencies in the world, the DEA. All you have to do, we want to know where this came from, who sent it, and they will know. They'll help you. And then you have a case. Or the government didn't want to prosecute this case. The government did not want to win this case. Because who is behind it and what is behind it? So we have to look at the political problem. Minister of Justice, yes, he doesn't have to be in court. But when somebody brings 1/5 of your national budget in drug in your country, you don't just sit in the office and say, yeah, I got somebody doing the work. No. You keep that, you will follow that one, step by step. This is $100 million work. And then you can imagine people who can ship $100 million to a port, what they can do. Because they were doing, they didn't just send it and say, okay, ship it, we'll see what happened. If it works, it works. $100 million, they had some preparation, and they had people working for them to do it. And that's what happened. I think, I'll go totally in the conspiracy theories and say somebody in the government somewhere, somehow was part of this thing. I don't think the justice people, can, you don't blame them, but they didn't do their job.
Right.
And it's funny to see ombudsman and defending the Supreme Court. 90% of Liberians don't know there's a difference between Supreme Court and the Justice Ministry. Everybody think they're the same people. The same court, the same justice system. So people don't know the difference between the Supreme Court and the justice. So you're trying to bounce the ball and say, oh, they're supposed to do this, they're supposed to. No, it doesn't work that way. So that's my opinion. I think.
Now, why did it get caught, Doctor? Listen, I'm not disputing what you're saying, right? Because unfortunately, what is real or perceived as that corruption, that reality is possible. That very, very high people in government, knew about this and were involved. And then one would imagine if that were the case, then they would have made sure that they got the goods, and safely, and didn't go in the public, didn't go in the media. No.
They said they were tipped off by the American government.
By the American government, the DEA tipped them, so they couldn't.
The DEA, the small potato in the government. Yes, so maybe the thing was the American government got a hint of it, and they realized that the Americans knew what was happening, and so they were ashamed to just pretending to prosecute this case.
Because this was already left the port.
It was already in a safe house, in a warehouse.
Right.
And then the American tipped them off, and then they went to investigate. Okay.
But, Mr. Gonglo, I'm not going to repeat this question again because Elvis is not sure. Maybe you think I'm asking for the cocaine so I can use it.
Okay. No, but it's a good question though. Where's the cocaine? Where's the cocaine? Where's the goose? Because that means where's the money? And then where is the cocaine too? Because it might end up in the street. There, the young people, so it's an important question. Not necessarily because you want to know that you use it, but if we don't account for it, who's impacted are the young people in the country.
Mr. Gonglo, you follow Liberian news so much. Where's the cocaine?
Well, I would, I would assume the Minister of Justice still has the drugs in her possession. I want to believe that. But here is what I would say on the drug issue. I mean, I follow different stories on Facebook, in the newspaper. I've listened to different commentators on this matter. But, Liberia is actually an interesting country. Sometimes we tend to overemphasize or drive the public interest into something that is not even significant. A few days ago, I listened to, I believe, the district education officer in one of the districts in Nimba. He made a statement. I believe he was quoting someone. He said, when doctor made mistake, one person is harmed. But when an educator made mistake, the whole community is affected. If you take that statement in context and you juxtapose that with this drug situation and given the drug, the impact of drug on the young people and even old people in Liberia today, one would think that this drug case will even become much more political, that young people who are potentially the first victim of this will take to the street to even demand a retrial or some action by government. The laws give the president in the light of recent Supreme Court interpretation of executive order, President we can even issue a executive order and override certain actions now on this matter. So I would even think that this is something young people who are easily driven by politicians to demonstrate will be even in the street on this matter. But again, Liberia is an interesting country because, like Councillor Gongo said in one of his interviews, he said all of the more than 300 towns and villages he has visited, he said people just think that Zogo is Monrovia issue. He said you go in villages where there is even no motor, you see Zogo. So the drug issue in Liberia is so widespread that even in remote places you see Zogo. The people who call them Zogo, the drug affected you. You find them in all the villages. Now you dump such a man. And this is not the first time under President Salih. There was the arrest of the Colombian with the help of the US government. So Liberia is noted for being a transit point for West Africa. So it's not the first time that we have such conduct coming. It's not the first time that through the tip off from the US intelligence, they are tracked down or drug dealers or even drug quantity in Liberia. So I'm shocked that this issue is not a topical issue for young people to take the streets, because this is going to affect millions of young people. And it's affecting hundreds of thousands of young people already.
Yeah,
that is for me my shock. And that is for me the strangeness about the country called Liberia. How Liberians are very strange people.
Mr. Gonglo, the young people do not go in the street by themselves. They've always been pushed or pulled in the street by politicians, by actors, by standard bearers or political leaders. Why none of the political leaders pulling them?
So that means the young people don't act in their own interest, they act in the interest of political leaders.
That's why we saw in Johnson's choice.
That's what makes Liberia a strange country, because many of the big guys don't take the drugs.
But do the youth really see drug as a problem? Because they're doing it. Do they see it as a problem or something to enjoy? They have nothing to do. So would they protest? What would they protest? They probably want to know what it is so they can just know out of it.
Dr. Du, it's an interesting question. I raised similar issue on education. Say I'm an educator. I say, look, the sad thing is our leaders don't even see that education, poor quality education or lack of access to education in Liberia might even put an end to Liberia as a nation. Our leaders don't see the imperative need for giving quality education and increasing the access to education at all levels and having trained teachers to man our education institution. They don't see it. They see it as a political issue.
Right. And Mr. Bongo, that's why I'm pushing it back to you. These political leaders, they are not making it an issue. They are only concerned about being elected. The drug case you talk about.
So Dennis, I think it would be a good thing when we see politicians come on FOL, we page to them. Why you didn't call for this on this drug? Why you have not maybe proposed certain drastic action on the drug issue? Or how do you see the impact of drugs on the young people or on the nation? How do you see it? We need to have that. We need to. It's actually a dialogue that I would say, like in the 90s, people were talking about national referendum, consultation. Liberia should actually call a national consultation on the drug issue. Because some people say our drug laws are weak. We need to have a national consultation, because that's one thing that could actually put an end to this country in different ways.
Great. Thank you. If you're just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. If you want to be part of the conversation, please call the number on your screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791-403#. Mr. Salif, I still want to beat on politicians. They are not making this issue front and center of their campaign.
Yes, campaigns have to understand the issues and what issues are winnable messaging, areas to explore.
So it's all about winning.
Well, in electoral politics is about winning. Unfortunately, you have to win before you govern. But you make a good point. If you will become a great president, a great leader, a great government in waiting, you demonstrate the indicators of how how you decipher societal problems, and how you couch those problems in your messaging, how you identify which audiences you want to pitch what messages to, and how you want to pitch those messages to. So you're right. We have to hold politicians accountable on these major national issues. If things are happening around you that impact the country you want to represent, and we don't hear you raise any issue, you don't speak to it, you don't give a position, it's not a problem to your campaign. Your campaign doesn't see it as a major problem. That is an issue. That is an issue, because then if you are in power and this is happening around you, this is how you would treat it, you know. But I wanted to, as Gonglo was speaking, I started thinking, well, we could be making a lot of assumptions here that $100 million worth of cocaine was meant for Liberia, and that there's a market for it in Liberia. These young people, yes, they'll buy dope and stuff, right? But how much money do we have? I mean, this could be just a transit, you know, the transit situation where you have a friendly government, or if the assumption, what Dr. Du was saying, if it were the case with high level people involved, maybe you just have a friendly government at this port in this country that you can transit, you know, your goods through, and then manage to get it to other destinations where the market is available, where the liquid cash is available, readily available, waiting for such large, presumably large amount of cocaine. That's an area to think about. Yes, some will definitely end up on the Liberian market, but how much money you can recoup that $100 million in 5 years selling cocaine in Liberia?
Yeah, I think this was meant for the a different market. You know, like in Ivory Coast, Nigeria, Togo, all these ports are used by the narco traffickers, and they use the Sahara to, you know, get them to Europe. So I don't think it was for Liberia. Nobody how you want to say $500 million cocaine in Liberia? That would take you 200 years.
It will saturate the market. That wasn't for the Liberian market.
No, I don't think it was for the Liberian market. I think it was, that's why, you know, young people don't care about drugs. They just take it.
We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll bring in our callers.
Our country, sweet Mandela, our country, that God gave all this country. Fellow Liberian, that God gave all this country. We are calling on everyone here to come and pray for this country, Liberia, God gave all this country.
Welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday.
Notamment, qui, je dois le rappeler, dans ce contexte de la municipale, d'abord au niveau des Nations.
Welcome back to Tough Talking Thursday. We are discussing the incident at PYJ Church, Mr. Cummings' search for vice president, the JNB campaign strategy, and the $100 million drug case that ended in all acquittals. Let me bring in our callers here to weigh in on the issues. First caller here is Mr. Elvis Morris. Elvis, you're live. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. John, and hello to Mr. Salih, Dr. Duke, Mr. Gonglo. I hope you guys are enjoying the weather. The weather is nice. I hope, you know, this is our kind of weather as Liberians. We love the heat. So I hope you guys had a wonderful afternoon. Yeah, Mr. John, let me just say, I know outside of, you know, Focus on Liberia, I'm sure you've never asked the question, where is the cocaine? You've never asked that question before, I'm sure of that. So
don't be too sure.
Don't take But let me say this quickly. In terms of Prince Johnson, I think, you know, Prince Johnson has somebody who he is afraid of. You know, like a child in the dark, once you turn the light on, that fear recedes. And I think once Charles Taylor left Liberia, Prince Johnson fear, the person he feared had went away so he could come back to the country. So let's not forget so quickly. Prince Johnson is afraid of Charles Taylor. And the people he's dealing with right now is Charles Taylor's, you know, former wife. And just how Prince Johnson has people who are loyal to him, Charles Taylor has a lot of people who's loyal to him as well. the whole Banga, the whole, Fed Bell, they're staunchly loyal to Charles Taylor. So Prince Johnson has to kind of, walk, carefully. But with the whole cocaine issue, the reality is, like you guys said, it was Liberia is a transit point. And that's what the American government, the CIA has been trying to, advise our government about, not being a transit point for drugs to flow from Africa into Europe and even, maybe make it to America. So it's not going to go to Liberia to be sold. Cocaine is a rich man's drug. There is a booger sugar for the rich man. So a lot of Liberians can't afford cocaine. It's very expensive. So I don't think it was meant for our markets. But when we talk about drugs, let's not harp on this government and make it seem like, drugs just started when George Weah came to power. During the other time, you have the Zobo crisis. You have people in Bong, in Sinai, and other places who are on drugs. So the drug epidemic is a worldwide phenomenon. It's happening even in this great United States with all the resources. We have a lot of people who are addicted to opioids and fentanyl and all types of dangerous drugs. So great countries themselves suffer, the drug crisis, and Liberia, as a small, impoverished country, is going through the same thing. Not saying it's right, but let's not demonize the government as being something that is easily manageable. It's really not easily manageable, even for great countries. And lastly, for JMB...
Evans, let me hold you there. Who's doing that? Who is putting this drug problem on George Weah?
Political pundits, perhaps, a couple of them on this platform and other platforms who try to say the country has become a drug den, and George Weah came to power.
No, but things are getting worse with the drugs, right? Things are getting worse. Do we agree on that?
Well, yes, of course. Things are getting worse in this country too. A lot of people dying from drug overdose. So I agree with you, Mr. John. Things are getting worse, but things are getting worse everywhere. Let's not demonize this government. But let me make my last point. I don't want to take up too much of the time.
It's not demonizing. Other places, people are going on the moon, because we're quick to compare America. So, but go ahead.
No, I would
people here going on the moon.
Quickly, it would be like the man from Trinidad who said that the Trinidad people said they were going to the moon in a rocket. And the people say that rocket, if you're going to the sun in a rocket, the people say that rocket will burn once it gets close to the sun. The people say, no, we're not going in the daytime, we're going at night. So, when you're talking about going to the moon, no African country has ever gone to the moon. So let's be that one. But the point I'm trying to make is, when it comes to JMB, about his whole not campaigning, how, Hillary Clinton made that same mistake, and we saw what happened to her. Don't let your hubris make you believe that everybody is going to vote for you because, quote unquote, we are so bad. That would be his biggest mistake. You better go out there, even if you're walking on King. Let him walk on King and go to all the villages like Bongo been doing. If he can't do that, it's a mission that he's unfit for the office, just purely based on agility and his physical state. But I'll leave it there. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you. Let me bring in my friend Aliyu Samba Kamara. Mr. Aliyu, you're live.
How you doing today, Dennis?
Excellent.
It's a pretty good show, pretty laid back, and a lot of great points here. First of all, let me suggest that whenever you're asking these questions that has to do with objectivity, just reserve Mr. Gwangolo's questions about George Weah. Not George Weah, but Joseph Boakai. Any questions you get for Joseph Boakai about Joseph Boakai, ask Mr. Gwangolo. He will respond to those. When it comes to the objective questions, leave it to the other guys. I think they'll go. They will do something.
Oh, God.
He suggested that he suggested that Joseph Boakai should come off FOL. I think that's a good idea. And I think if you can get in touch with Kessley and Amos Twist, those two will bring Joseph Boakai to you faster. But let's try to host Amos Twist and the guys that are surrounding Joseph Boakai in the meantime, and that's how we'll have to suck him on the show. But right now he's very, very engaged. The Youngbley and Bunskin thing, and people want to rationalize it because that's politics. I think that's how it should be. But the reality is that Shalane is not Charles Bunskin. You have to understand. Even as powerful as Charles Bunskin may have been in the Bassa community, Charles Bunskin did not have overwhelming vote in Grand Bassa County at any time. He may have won small numbers, but not at any time where he won Grand Bassa County alone overwhelmingly. So remember, Charlene is not Charles Bumsky. And Prof. Duke and Ahmed actually laid it out, you know, to try to be as objective as possible. The two folks, and you even alluded, the two folks we're talking about here, if you put those two people on a ticket in a highly polarized society like Liberia, those two people don't have a chance. Let's just be honest. I mean, they were spoiled. They would delay the electoral process. Instead of 1 round, it's going to be 2 rounds. Of course, that's all they can do. Because Liberians, whether people believe it, whether people want to accept it or not, Liberians vote on the basis of who they know, who they have been knowing, the names they've been hearing for rack of ages. You know, like the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf thing. And a lot of people make mistake when they say Ellen does not belong to a tribe. That is not true. Ellen Johnson Sirleaf comes from indigenous background. She's not a Congo woman. People should understand that. With the drug issue, the government dropped the ball on the drug issue. And I'm not going to question the judicial branch of government. Maybe they worked based on the evidence they had before them. However, this tells us some level of incompetence within the judicial process. That means that even though the evidences are so glaring, even a layman can see that something went wrong, but yet the government was not able to present enough evidence to have these people, you know, persecuted. So, but wonderful show, Joseph Boakai, the statement that Joseph Boakai should relax. Even in my household, I'm from my ethnic group. My old man, they come in the evening time, they sit on the porch, they sit right there, water right near their foot. They will call you, hey, my no. You have to go there and pick up the water and put it in. It doesn't mean a cripple. It is just our heritage. It is our tradition. It is our culture. And Guamo, there's no exception to this culture we're talking about. We all have the same origin. So, you know, he's just being political. So, but yeah, I really enjoy the show, how sober and how calm it is. I wish On Point can be this calm. You know, maybe we should have our show most of the time. Get Anthony C out of there for a minute.
Dennis, can I ask you a question?
Right. Okay, hold on, Aliyu.
Can I ask you a question?
Okay.
Yeah. So, is that Cherie?
Aliyu Kamara.
Aliyu Kamara. Mr. Kamara, why will you comparing culture and modern day democracy or democratic process together? What do you say to those who are just turning 18 years and are going to vote? They don't know Joseph Boakai. They don't know anything about what you're talking about. They were born probably just in Monrovia, and they don't speak any other language, any other ethnic group. They are not bred in our culture. They are the 1990s born. What do you say to them? How do they get to know Joseph Boakai? What do you say to them? Do you say to them?
When you say modern culture, what do you mean? Are you talking about Western culture?
No,
Western democracy?
No, I'm saying that.
All right.
No, they don't know the tradition you're talking about. You're trying to compare tradition and you are trying to compare tradition and democracy, right? And those are two distinct things.
You think so?
Democracy has its own culture. Democracy has its own culture.
All right.
And African tradition has
African tradition. That's the birthplace of democracy.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, it's debatable.
All right. But let me take more colors.
There are different scholars that have different thoughts on that.
All right. Thank you so much, Dennis.
All right. Thank you. We got a lot of colors here. Thank you, Mr. Aliyu Boakai Kamara. Let me go to Ambrose. I'm sure this is not Ambrose man. Ambrose, go ahead. You're live.
Hey, John. Yeah, John, how you doing? And how's the family?
Great.
John, I'll start with where you're in. I think if people love Joseph Boakai, they should try by all means for him to go on the campaign trail. By not going on the campaign trail, they will nail him with a lot of stuff. I know he may be popular, or people assume he will win the election, but not being on the campaign trail physically, and it will not do him good. It will harm him because there will be a lot of rumors, a lot of disease, and he will not be able to stand it. The propaganda against him will be too heavy. So So whatever calculus or mathematics they did to come up to that conclusion, they didn't really do that formula all over. But with Prince Johnson, Prince Johnson Church, that's what I would say. I think Prince Johnson have lived a plan, and I think it's now possible. Who lives in America? That's why they preach against politics in church. I think anyone that is involved using their pulpit to castigate or to throw jabs at people, we should stop that going on. I'm not saying it was okay for people to go to his church or even go to his principles. I think he's here to demonstrate, but we should start to call it this. We divide politics in church.
They are the same. Even Jesus preached politics in the synagogues.
Yeah, Bob. Jesus was never running to be the president for any nation.
That's what people thought. They thought he was running to be king. And he preached politics in the synagogue.
Which Bible verse says that Jesus was running to be president?
No, I say the Jewish people, they were waiting for an earthly king. So their whole perception, even during the triumphal entry into Jerusalem, people were thinking, okay, finally we have our king. Don't play with me now. It's scripture.
Okay, now I agree with you, but
no, go ahead, make your point. I'm kidding.
Yes, for me, I was studying. I think it's now a good mix because
people have preached politics in the church all the time, from Bishop Michael Francis, Bishop George D. Brown, now Reverend Reeves, the Rabbi, President Weah. They preach politics on the pulpit all the time.
Yeah,
it depends on what you call politics.
I'm a Francophone church to even criticize anybody. That's not right. And Bishop Francis or Bishop Destiny you're talking about, they were never running for anything. They were on the Christian and Liberian Council of Churches. So sometimes they would say some things that they disagree or they felt they should speak to. But they were not going there to say, oh, because I got here about Jah, and Jah go to his church and put Jah at me or respond back to me. But okay, and this is what I would say for the drugs. I think if Musa Dane really believes that he's a professional man or he's a good lawyer, I think he should put in his resignation because he got the ball on this job. This case is no way the government could lose this case. You can say lack of evidence, but there's no way they should lose it because they can still hold it to them on different counts or on a different.
The people gone. They're not in the country.
Yeah, that's what I say. Okay, so they will never be able to explain it because how come Abu is in jail, Abu goes to court, Abu is set free, and Abu is out of the country? How that can work?
What do you mean? Somebody got acquitted. They're not wanted. They're free to travel. They have the freedom.
If I miss my family and you say I'm free,
yeah,
in 2 seconds I'm gone. But let me move on to another caller.
The Minister of Justice could decide to delay the implementation of the court order.
All right, thank you, Ambrose. Let me get Mr. Paul. Justice Paul.
Yeah, Dennis, so thank you for taking my call, sir. So for me, in my opinion, I consider Liberia a failed state, because what is going on in Liberia is not normal. But according to Mr. Morali to them this morning, where he said they switched the actual perpetrators. So the actual culprits were actually set and they set free a long time ago, and then they switched them with different defendants. Okay. So that's how it was. It was difficult for the jury to find those guys guilty.
Is that a conspiracy or is something that you can prove?
No, according to Morali, you got an inside source from the government. That what the government did. They actually switched the defendants. So and then the drugs. I think the drugs got burned. Because the American was really watching the drugs. Yeah, I think there's a video to it. The drugs actually got burned. What another burn? Everything I don't know about. There was a video where they were actually burning these drugs because the American were on top of it. challenge Brodsky. We are really excited with the support of Mr. Cummings. We are really, really excited because Mr. Cummings is a different style of leader. He has a different style of leadership. He's more practical. So I'm going to bring that theoretical part of it, bringing the explanation, the fire brand. So she's basically the icing on the cake. The groundwork has already been laid out. People have gone out there and sending messages out there, but that real excitement should bring that excitement to the campaign. So we are really excited for our appointment, our selection, and we are looking forward to Friday. Not Friday, but Saturday. So yeah, thank you for the opportunity, sir.
Thank you. Oh, let me get the last caller here. That's Trogan Bayou. Trogan, go ahead. You're live.
Good evening, everyone. This is Trogan again. I just want to offer what the previous caller just stated about Charlene. I heard another caller that said that Charlene is not Charles Bronsky. So maybe during Mr. Bronsky's time, even when Walker and Basaka, they were overwhelmingly. One of the reasons Bronsky having won Basel overwhelmingly would be that because we are always coming second.
Right.
And we are, if you look at President Weah, he has a very, very close link to the Basel people. His mom is from Riverside County. And don't forget, Riverside used to be part of Grand Basel County before it became a county during Doe's administration. So the biggest loser for Grand Basel County I see this coming election would be Joseph Boakai. I can state it clearly.
Why so?
Because
why?
Okay. The reason is that the Basel people, the Basel belt as a whole, which include part of Mosuralo, even some part of Nema County, the Wee Basel in Nema County, Riverside and Magidi and Grand Basel itself, they're going to go for their own. And if Mr. Cummings did not make it to the second round, the entire Grand Basel, they're going to go for Mr. Weah. That's just a fact. I'm sorry to say this, but we are living in an age of identity politics now in Liberia.
Right. What identity politics will go for someone outside, Basel? Why not Yombly? Why wouldn't they go with Yombly?
Yombly is now on the ballot. Yombly was given an opportunity to be on the ballot, and she turned it down. She was misled by some of her own supporters. So she's now on the ballot, and she's just been a campaign manager. It doesn't ring any bell to the Basel people, or it's just a waste of time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. All right. Those were from our callers. Mr. Gonglo, you wanted to respond to the callers?
Well, I don't want to say to more or less say anything more than what is that Mr. Kamara said. If there's any question about Boakai, it should be reserved for me, or any question about that call for objectivity should be given to Ahmed and Dr. Du. That's his thinking. But for me, I think as an observer of Liberian history and politics for years, being a student activist myself, and I know some things, and I can say, Mr. Kamara may not even know that I've sat in several closed-door meetings that I don't feel comfortable probably talking about with Joseph Boakai in 1996, 1995, and I don't want to talk about it today, but Mr. Demand, Mr. Lassana Kennedy, Lassana Kennedy, all of them know. The Lake of Krakoto would know. We sat in closed-door meeting, not for one day, not for 1 week, not for 1 month, for months. And I know him to some extent on those issues. So I will reserve my comment on that. That's all I can say. But, so that's his opinion. He's a UP activist. He should defend UP record. It's not yet time. We're going to debate on FOL UP records. We'll debate it. And we'll debate all of the candidates without exception, including Councillor Gonglo. His record in public service. We'll look at Boakai record in public service. We'll look at Jeremiah Kun record in public service. We'll look at all of the people who want to be our leader, because we have a right to know their records.
Thank you. Talking about debate, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, we're going to have Friday night debate, the fixer versus the rescuer. So you have fixer 1, fixer 2 versus rescue 1, rescue 2. That will be the debate. Representing the fixing or the fixer team, we have Duke JJ, a Cummings supporter, and Peter Kwiwi, another Cummings supporter. Going against the rescue team, represented by Maurice Kroma, a Boakai supporter, and Comrade Joe Wilson, another Boakai supporter. In the middle is the unquestionable independent, Robert Gregman Gagwa Jr., who is just going to be there delivering firepower wherever he feels fit. Join us tomorrow, and I will be hosting. You don't want to miss that.
I hope you have some people in the background to fast check, because some people might want to spew or false data.
Please come on and do our fact checking and also do our timekeeping.
Yeah. I'll be willing to do fast check, because I know.
Thank you.
Are you fact check when the people are accusing here of inobjectivity? I mean,
at least I'm not a Cummings supporter. I'm not a Boakai supporter, so I can fast check the two.
You will provide sources that we will all see.
Okay.
At this time, we get on to our Tabata session. If there's any Tabata of the week, please let us know or forever hold your peace. Tabata
first.
Oh, you can go first.
Okay, on Tabata, here is my Tabata. My Tabata is Senator Darius Dillon. I listened to him yesterday on Spoon Talk when they were discussing the National Road Fund. And Senator Jeremiah Kun's name was mentioned in some of the corruption scandal. His voting records came into question. And Senator Darius Dillon's position was, he was advising Liberians that when somebody has been bad and the person is trying to be good, we should encourage them to be good. We should not make them to go back to Egypt. And that's the guy who said, Musa Bedete has changed from Saul to Paul. Now he's telling us that we should not question people's bad record in government. If they want to be good, we should encourage them to be good. But when all the bad things they did it when they were adults, educated, sound, no mental health problem. They look at the wrong thing they did it. And for me, it does not make sense. It's a tabata in crude language. What Senator Dillon is promoting is political opportunism. When you see the ship trying to wreck, you jump to the other one. That's what he's trying to promote. And for me, I don't support that. I go for people's record. When they do something bad with all their senses alert, we should hold them for life on those bad things.
Mr. Salif, your Tabata of the week.
It has to be the cocaine case. I mean, it's all confusing, and because we have such bad reputation for corruption and backdoor dealings, nobody believes that the judiciary can actually render a verdict that is what it is. This is what. So people are out there saying, how could we lose such a case? I mean, how? It's not possible, right? But if you didn't do a good job, you didn't present your evidence properly, and you're asking the jury to be, if you didn't present if there's reasonable doubt, people say, okay, prove your case, then people go free. But it's just it's big nonsense. The whole thing, like how it was managed, or the lack thereof, like how it wasn't managed properly, what the government, the role the government played, the Ministry of Justice or not play. It just tells you really the quality of governance and government that we are receiving. Maybe the people are qualified, but they're not working together, they're fighting one another, and all those factors affect and how you deliver governance. It's not when someone says, you're not governing well, or there's misrule. They're not saying necessarily that you're so incompetent or you're ignorant. You just, maybe there are factors that are limiting you. Maybe just your policies and how there's infighting in the government and all of that, lack of integrity in certain areas. So it was just a big fiasco for Liberia. Really, it sends a very bad message for the kind of country we are.
Thank you. Do you know that Simeon Freeman, the standard bearer of the Movement for Progressive Change, MPC, picks Dr. James Colley Barkley as his running mate?
You're asking me or asking everybody? Yes, we know that.
That's the breaking news. So and it happened. It was on front page yesterday, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it did not really make the rounds. Dr. Duke, what's your Tabata of the week? On mute, please. Dr. Duke, you are still muted.
I can hear you.
All right. While we wait for Dr. Duke, let me go with my own Tabata. My own Tabata is just recently. Remember the city police chief who was making this revelation? Where is that? Where did that go now? I mean, what happened?
He was on a panel actually on OKFM today, I think, and I thought that was him that I saw saying some things about the government. I couldn't understand where he stood with things.
Right, and this whole idea that something will pop up and then it just goes away. I don't know the thing. Nobody's watching anymore. To me, that's complete tabata. Even the case involving the case at the alleged murder of Shalom Musu. Where did it go now? Everything just come and go like that? Dr. Du, what's your tabata of the week?
My tabata is the $100 million drugs. The $100 million drugs, and my theory, two-side theory, two-phase theory. One, somebody high up in the government was part of this and couldn't let it go to, had to get it back in control, or the government was too scared to even win the case because somebody was part of it. So my tabata is I think this is a very shameful case for the government to drop. Somebody dropped the ball, willingly or not willingly, but somebody dropped the ball. And this is a case where you're supposed to win, to just say, okay, we are serious, we can do something like this. But this was really bad. So I don't think anything, surpassed this as the tabata of the week in the country.
And the role of the justice minister, I don't know which side is on.
Well, the justice minister said he should publish a letter asking the police to arrest the guys, but they were already gone. You should have said that before. You should have said that, no, don't let them go out anyway.
But why, Dr. Duke, if you're acquitted, why are they arresting you?
But no, if you watch, you can be acquitted on one crime, and then
but not the same.
They can arrest you for something else.
Yeah, exactly. You cannot try for a double
jeopardy. You're not trying them for the same issue. Mm-hmm. No, not for that same issue. But you can rearrest them for another issue. There's something you can find. There's always something little you can find, and then say, we're going to keep you overnight till tomorrow. And then you go charge them with trespassing or not paying for the food in prison or something like that.
That's not justice.
No, you find a reason. Your government.
I know it happens. I agree.
No,
Fomo
but that's
Livingston
what
says his
government
Tabata is Mr. Evans Morris the color. I don't know how, but we take all the Tabata. Oh.
But again, you could also say Joe Howard Taylor saying we should be afraid of Boakai presidency because we put Prince Johnson so close to the presidency. I said, but madam, you Charles Taylor's wife. He called Prince Johnson to make you vice president. We're not scared. And you're still there.
Something I thought was breaking news today, though, Janice. Somehow I stumbled across Prophet Keith's show, and I listened to who was on Prince Johnson. He was saying he just spoke to Charles Taylor 2 days ago, and apologized that Charles Taylor apologized to him for whatever happened between him and Mrs. Taylor and all of that, telling him to deal with Mrs. Taylor.
Ahmed, that is a Prince Johnson, a pathological liar.
I don't know. I'm just saying that's why.
Making call to Prince Johnson, making call to Charles Taylor in London, it takes process. It's not just like that.
No. He said the man called.
But you didn't know when he started the process.
He said the man be talking to him. He said the dude talked through a daughter whom he helps, and the daughter told the father how he helped the family when the family needed. And Mr. Taylor was shocked, like, really? I didn't know you could help my family in my absence. And he asked the daughter to connect them, and they spoke on the phone. He disclosed all kinds of things that they talked about.
When they
Prince Johnson can't keep secret. I don't know if he's a liar, but he can't keep secret. Definitely not.
Right. Well, because I know something which he lied about publicly. When he went to Nimba and said, hey, the opposition is united now. Gongo has agreed he will be the Chief Justice when we are elected and all that. And no such discussion ever happened. No such meeting ever took place. Where did he come from with that talk?
Are you speaking for the Gonglo team?
I'm not speaking for the Gonglo team. At least when discussions happen, I'm a member of the Liberian People's Party. So when something happens, it will go around. For God's sake, why will you just make a story? In fact, anyway, I can't talk about this because it's not in public, so I will just leave.
My Tabata is Musa Belete going after Stanton. Birds of the same feather flock together. Both men belong in the same league, shady and boastful. Yeah, of late, the gloves are off. Chairman Musa Belete is going after Stanton Witherspoon with all his might. It's interesting. Yesterday he was on his own live show, not even being invited. He's going live, and I think it's going to get even a little more rowdy as election approaches.
Yeah, I watched a little bit of it. It was what I listened to was blistering. I mean, it was like tearing the guy apart. I don't know where Stanton was because this was on Spoon. He was going after Fagon and Witherspoon. He said they have a lawyer who is looking into the State Department, the Justice Department, the U.S. Whatever this guy is influencing politics. There's the point there, though, that you could sit on your platform on radio or TV, whatever, and influence politics. While you have an indictment and investigation that could complicate, I don't know, but that's where Musa was going, that they're looking into that and they'll make life difficult for Stanton.
You know about indictment and politics. Trump is indicted. He's talking every day.
Yeah.
So, there's no law against being indicted and talking. I mean, you can be indicted and make you talk every day. So when you go to jail, then you don't have the freedom to talk.
I think you got to be careful there, though, because it depends on the source of the funding. For example, will you say there will be no issue if somebody got money from drugs trade in the United States, you are under drug indictment, and the wealth you got from drugs, you are trying to change the government in another country, the United States would not be concerned. Right. There can be no wiggle room there for U.S. lawyers.
But you have to prove it now.
No. I'm saying, somebody on a string example, drug dealer
It doesn't matter. It's presumption of innocence.
Right.
The presumption of innocence. The person hasn't gone to court, so how can we stop him from talking or to her from talking? They can do anything, say anything they want.
And whatever they say, you can classify as influencing policy or influencing this. It may be.
The only exposure there is
in court, but you can't.
However, the only exposure there is stuff you say can come back to haunt you in court when you're actually trying.
Yeah. Sometimes, yeah. But you can stop somebody from, indictment don't stop you from talking. It doesn't even stop you from running for president, not even Liberia.
Right. Well,
except you go to court, the court finds you guilty, then you're out.
Yeah. So, Mr. Witherspoon is free to talk.
Yeah.
And just like how politics is going, right? People that were one side and then they're on the other side, and as they play these videos, it gets very interesting. I mean, you watch President like Fagon tape for Boakai and against Boakai, and you think that's two different eras, but it's like within so much short time.
Yeah. And then somebody produce a video now, just send to FOL.
Right. You will see Stanton.
Fagon against Fagon. Talking what he used to say about Boakai. And
what he said now. You also see Stanton, how he has moved from having a soft side of the government, soft side of Cummings, now soft side of Boakai. And it's just happening before our eyes, and it's interesting.
That's what makes Liberians strange people.
No, we are political beings, and that's normal.
I think we are extreme political beings.
I don't think so. I think we are like every other.
Oh yeah, Dr. Du. When you guys were during the peace process, West African leaders never used to tell you guys that Liberians are strange people. They're killing each other when they come to peace conference. They're hawking. They're asking for each other family. And as soon as the conference is over, they're splitting each other's throats in Liberia.
No, that happened that happened a lot. But
during World War II, they will play soccer together, and then right after that they start fighting. So it's the same.
That regular soccer, playing soccer in World War II.
Yeah.
But the footballers were not the ones playing. Not the footballers were not the military people.
I mean, they show
no, but I think that what are you talking about, the peace process? Yeah, that was different. I mean, we had a war for 2 years. I mean, it was not like we had begun to war for 20 years. It was just like 2 years war. And then we go to Yamoussoukro. I remember Sirleaf's birthday. He rented a suite. Everybody was there. And then found out, his partners, everybody was talking to everybody. But the next day we went to the meeting. We're sitting behind our chiefs, and then we just don't smile.
Right.
But I think the problem we have is not that we are so political more than anyone else. Is that we don't have straightforward, clear-cut ideologies to support our policy and political thinking. So we go from personal identity to tribal identity, and maybe some loose connection to age and stuff. Because we don't have any ideology. There's no difference between what Boakai platform will say from what Gongolo will say from in real terms. It's the same quote unquote development-oriented agenda. Right. But if we don't have differences, political differences, real political differences, then it becomes issue of person and tribe.
And I still think, Dr. Duke, I still think even with that, it happens everywhere. Those in Congress talking about debt ceiling. After that, they're drinking beer somewhere.
Yeah,
they're playing Ludo together.
Yeah, we're going to stick to the ideas. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But thank you all for tonight. Thank you for your time. I want to thank our viewers, those who are watching, and even those who will watch later. Always focus on Liberia, the best since 1847, and you can take that to the bank. We never close the broadcast without playing our song, We Are All Liberians, because we are. Whether you are Crew, Grebo, Crown, or Bandi, Mende, or Loma, we are all Liberians. Whether you support ANC, CDC, LPP, or UP, whatever, we are all Liberians. Let's do our very best for a free, fair, democratic election, and that our country remain the greatest and the glorious land of liberty. Have a good night. We are all Liberians.
We are Liberians.